All right, guys, tell me what you know about mass, volume, and density.
Mass and weight.
All types of mass.
Mass and weight.
Is it weight? What do you guys know? What do you guys know about these three? How much space takes up? Which one is that? No.
Volume.
Volume is the space. Okay. So volume. So go ahead and write that down very quickly. Volume is the amount of space that something occupies. So amount space object occupies. Okay. So tell me about the other two. What about mass? What do you mean how big it is?
The shape of it.
What do you mean?
So confused right
How much it weighs? Is weight and mass the same thing? Weight is a unit of force.
Yeah.
Say that again, Tom? What do you mean how much is something?
Like how much computer is right here. It's like, okay, it's not this much, it's this much.
Yeah. That's about how much I got. Yes, but no. I think to define mass is actually kind of difficult. I think if I told you guys, we're going to measure mass, you guys can get an idea of which objects are more massive than others. But what we're really talking about with mass is it's a measurement of matter. How much matter an object has. So it's the amount of matter that an object has. I'm going to write that in.
Oh.
So matter or mass is the amount of matter. By the way, what are the units for mass? Grams.
Kilogram. Grain.
Grams. Okay, so that's our basic unit. What's the basic unit for volume? Liters.
Liters.
Okay, now talk to me about density.
How dense an object.
What do you mean?
I don't
I
know.
really
It's hard
don't
to,
know this one.
it's hard to explain.
It's like how much it can weigh. It's like
Is it like density what causes something to sink?
Density is what causes something to sink.
That's all I know, sorry.
That's fine. So we know that density is what causes objects to sink, or float, or hover in the water column. What else do you know about density?
Things are hard.
This right here is about density.
Washing.
Right?
It's water.
So we shake it up. There's actually two types of clear liquid in this bottle.
What are they?
Salt water and rubbing alcohol.
Can we drink it?
I would highly suggest you not to.
Well, there goes that.
Why do they separate?
There.
What's causing them to separate? It's not so much a chemical reaction.
The density of the color.
It's the density of the colors. Which one is more dense?
Blue.
The blue. Which one's less dense?
White.
And how do we know that? Yeah, the white's on top, bottom's on the bottom, or the blue's on the bottom, so the blue's more dense. Okay? So again, it's all about density. Density is one of those central themes to earth science. It actually dictates how things get sorted in our wonderful world in which we live. There's a reason why water sits on the surface and air sits above the surface. It's all because of density. We think about the different layers of the earth, or with the crust, and then the mantle, and then the outer core and the inner core. Again, those are all separated because of density. So density is definitely going to play a major role in almost every unit that we discuss throughout this class. So what is it? I'll give you a hint. It's a ratio. It's a ratio of two things.
Mass
and
and
volume.
volume.
That's mass and volume.
Both
Yes.
exact same time.
How many of you guys have heard of population density? All right. Tell me how population density works. Tanner?
It's like how many people per whatever
Per what? Give me a whatever. Per what?
square mile.
Per square mile. Notice you said per square mile, not per 100 square miles. Per square mile, right? So per single square mile. Okay, a lot of times we're looking at per square mile, we might be looking at per square kilometer. If you're doing a population density with natural resources, you might talk about which type of trees, the number of trees per square feet or square yard. So again, that's kind of going to be an important one there for density. It's something divided by a single unit. And when we think about density, it's the same thing. It's the ratio of mass to volume. That's probably the best definition I can give you for it. It's the ratio of mass per unit volume. What do I mean by unit volume? Just like population density, it's per 1 square mile, right? So if we're doing density, it's going to be per liter, per 1 milliliter, per 1 kiloliter. It's 1 on the bottom. So your denominator is always going to be a 1. So when we look at this, if we understand, well, guys, what is a ratio? Talk to me in math for a minute. What's a ratio? Okay, I know we're in science class, but seriously, guys, think for a minute. A comparison of two values.
Right.
And in math class, what's the best way that we write ratios? Fractions. So when we think about density represented by the letter D, we actually get a fraction. D is mass over volume.
D and B.
There you go. So density is mass over volume. Now, typically when we're talking about volume for this class, it's not going to be in liters. It's typically going to be in milliliters. So understanding that, what are the units for density?
G. Or G equals
No? Okay, well, what is density again? What's the formula? M over V, mass over volume. What are the units for mass? Grams.
VL.
So G over, so is grams per milliliter. That's your density. Grams per milliliter. Okay. How many of you guys have taken or are taking Algebra 1? Good. Cole, you're not taking that yet?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Have taken or are taking Algebra 1. All right, now, the reason I bring that up is unfortunately we're not always just asked to find the density. If I want to know one of these values, what do I have to know? Think about Algebra 1 for a minute. If I have 3 unknowns, how do I find one of the unknowns? What is the other information I need to know? No. I have to know the other two, right? If I want to know mass, I have to know the density and the volume. If I want to know volume, I got to know density and the mass. Okay, so you need to know at least 2 out of the 3 in order to find the third. So what I want us to do real quick, we're going to do some Algebra 1 arithmetic here. How do I solve for M? If density is mass divided by volume, what is mass?
DV.
Density times volume. Yeah, because think about it, how do you get rid of the division here? Multiply both sides by V. So we get M equals dV, or if it's easy to remember, you can always remember that M is VD. Now, it's a little bit more difficult to go the other direction. How do I solve for volume? By the way, you might want to look in that direction to solve for V. So how do you find volume?
B
No. So how would I solve for volume here?
Divide by D.
Divide by D. So V is
D divided by M divided by D.
M divided by D. Those are the three formulas that you need to know for today's lesson.
Yes.